Okay, thank you. Just a bit of background. I'm Steve Chilton. I'm Education Development Manager at the university, and Kirsteen is a Senior Educational Developer in the team. What our brief is to talk about the benefits of social media for learning. We're going to do a little bit of scary stuff to start with. We're going to do some academic stuff. You're going to do an activity, and we're also going to just talk very briefly about the difference between face-to-face communication and do you get some kind of extra from me being here talking and all the body language and the nuances of my voice? And would it be different if you were actually responding to something that was coming to you independently by some other means that might not be so interesting? We're going to explore that possibility in a minute. First of all, just very briefly, just to be aware of the problems of your digital footprint. Everything you do in the world leaves something behind. Okay? When I was a student, way back, when I left, I was up at Oxford. Anyone who knows Oxford, it was the one at the top of the hill, not the famous one. I got a job, and for reasons that we don't need to go into just now, I got locked in the toilet at this place, and they had to break the door down to get me out. Now, I went back there about 5 years later, and the door had not been mended. That's basically the end of that, because no one else really knows about it unless I choose to tell them. In the modern day, if I was to do that, my mates would be down there with their video, right, and they'd be on YouTube before you know it, and it would be something that I would probably be embarrassed to be spreading in the world. We just want to just talk about a couple of things that you need to be thinking about as you progress through life. The tools that you use are giving some impression of you to the rest of the world. And there's just an example of a graphic from somewhere we found about the fact that you might have said something on Facebook or something you did on YouTube could affect your employability prospects, and you need to be aware of that. Just a couple of examples of the sort of things that have happened to other people. This is a clip from the Daily Telegraph in the UK. And it's about employers rejecting potential candidates because of something they found out about them through actually taking the effort to look at their profiles and their information about them on the internet. And those things could happen to you. Again, one from the US. This is from USA Today. Employers using technology to track their workers. You need to be aware that's happening to you. And whatever you're doing, we've got the results of the survey that you kindly filled in, some of you. It's about how social and how active you are. And all those things will have some digital footprint that will be reminded to anyone who chooses to look for it. Okay, there was a famous case of someone in the UK who was very frustrated at an airport and using Twitter, saying he was going to, what was he going to do? He was going to blow up the airport. Okay, just after a couple of remarks, he was frustrated. He got picked up, he was taken to court, and the judge ruled that it was a menacing nature in the context of the time in which we live, and he received a fine for it. And it was something that he really shouldn't have done without a little bit thinking about it. So the kind of message is, all those things you're doing may have some possible impact. Okay. I'm now going to ask Kirsteen to take over and talk about some of the positives that we think in social media and learning.
We asked you to complete a survey, an online survey, before coming to the session today. We've had results from some of you, but can I just have a show of hands of how many of you actually have a Twitter account? My Twitter story had a kind of slightly dull start. A friend advised me to join this service. At that point I wasn't using Facebook or any other of the common social media, social networking tools. And I started following a few celebrities, and that was great fun when the boss wasn't watching and I had a spare moment at work. But I really couldn't see the point. It was when I went to a conference, a technology conference about 18 months ago, I really got engaged with Twitter, and I absolutely love it. I think it's just a fantastic tool. I can tune in when I want and learn in bite-sized chunks. Facebook I find quite irritating. Twitter I can just learn so much from, I feel. And that change at that conference was the ability to start following educators, people that are in my field who on a regular basis, daily, are tweeting about new technologies. They're tweeting about Web 2 technology, e-learning. They're sharing their ideas, their thoughts, their experiences, their reviews. And I think that's something probably you as marketers are aware of more than us, is the power of personal reviews, personal recommendations. But I have to be careful about what I'm tweeting about, because we have to be concerned, we have to be aware of our digital footprint. So when I'm slightly irritated by a piece of work that somebody has given me, I shouldn't tweet about it openly. What I really do, where I really benefit from Twitter is the opportunity to share the knowledge that's being passed on to me. So those people that I'm following who are tweeting about educational technologies, I can share those resources with my colleagues, and it makes for interesting discussions in the office. So I have to be careful, because what I've learned in researching for today's presentation is everything is out there, everything's available. The Library of Congress is going to archive every single tweet ever made. So there's a footprint there already. And we shouldn't forget, obviously, what's in the current press about the US government subpoenaing Twitter to have access to all the archives in relation to WikiLeaks. We're going to skip this activity so that you can actually get some lunch today. But in terms of the benefits of social media, and we are coming from an education perspective, we believe that what exists now is the ability to make it easier for people to listen to one another, to interact, to engage with one another and collaborate. Tools are coming online daily, aren't they? Free tools on the internet that supposedly make this happen for us. And yes, we can pick up with old long-lost friends through Facebook, but I think what's more important is that we can make connections with people who have similar interests to us, similar research interests to us. And I think what again is a massive plus is the fact that the majority of these tools are free, and thankfully we don't need necessarily any technical know-how to get these things to work for us. Somehow in the late 90s I managed to complete a computing degree without successfully getting to grips with the art of programming. It's a wonder that I managed it, but that's what I love about the tools that we have available to us just now. We can just pick up and run with them. It's how we use them that's important. So somebody has nicely sketched out where we are at the moment for us. And in terms of social media, we've got the ability to publish using blogs. We can share. How many of you actually use tools such as Flickr or Picasa for sharing your photos? Do you publish to YouTube? We can have discussions. We can create networks. We can create our own internal networks. We don't have to put everything out there on Facebook. There are tools out there that we can use to build our own. We've got microblogging. We've got all kinds of live stream tools. There's obviously gaming and virtual worlds. And when Steve and I first started looking into the benefits of social media for education about 18 months ago, one of the first things we did was go out there and start Googling and looking for some facts. You know, how big is this? And this is a very old statistic. Sorry, it's so dated. We don't have any more recent figures, but this is one that struck us as very interesting when we first started, as I say, researching this. It's a UK figure, but my impression up until that point had been that the people engaging with social networking are the young ones, the kids. You know, they're skipping lessons, they're ignoring what their teachers are saying, and they're texting, and they're on Facebook in class. But actually it's the close to middle-aged people in the UK in terms of the internet users who are the highest users of social networking. But I think the most striking thing for me was that there's very little difference between the percentages at all. We have people aged 55 and over, quite a high percentage of people who are engaged with this technology. And a breakdown of what people are up to between 2008 and 2009 showed that, yes, Facebook is up at the top and had increased in usage over that year. But look at the increase in the usage of Twitter, 3,000% increase year on year, 2008, 2009, of those UK internet users. Another thing that's worth bearing in mind is that with the onset of smartphones, and especially the iPhone, by February last year, UK sales alone had created 2 million mobile internet users. Oh. Sorry. Some stats from the US now. Between 2009 and 2010, Facebook overtook Google as the most visited website. And this next one I'm not too sure what relevance it has to our talk today, but the headline certainly grabbed us. 47% of teens can text with their eyes closed. But seriously, next to the small graphic, 4 out of 5 teens in the US carry a wireless device.